So think about this for a second. How do you possibly prepare science teachers for a future we can't even really predict? Well, today we're digging into a brand new blueprint that's designed to do exactly that. Let's jump in. All right, so here's what we've got on tap. First, we're going to look at what a 21st century science class is all about. Then, we'll figure out what a modern science teacher even is. After that, we'll dive into a new training blueprint, see it in action, and wrap up with what this all means for the future of education. Okay, first things first, the 21st century science class. This section really gets to the heart of the problem. Are we actually preparing our teachers for the future, or are we stuck in the past? So let me ask you, what does a 21st century science class actually look like? When you think science class, are you picturing, a teacher at a blackboard, rows of desks, or is it something a little more chaotic, more hands-on, more plugged into what's actually happening in the world? And that's really the core of what we call STEM education. It's not just science, technology, engineering, and math as separate boxes. Nope. It's all about mashing them together to help students solve actual real-world problems. It's less about memorizing and more about doing, creating, and figuring things out. But here's the kicker, right? This whole new way of teaching, well, it needs a whole new kind of teacher. And that's where we hit a snag. The big problem, laid out in a doctoral thesis by Deng-Ming Tuan, is that the people we're counting on to teach this way, our future science teachers, they're just not always getting the skills they need to pull it off. And listen, this isn't just a feeling somebody had. The numbers are wow. Just look at this. A survey of student teachers found that 100% of them, yeah, every single one, had a tough time managing student activities during these big STEM projects. And almost all of them, 92.5%, struggle to even figure out how to grade or assess these new skills. We're talking about a massive gap between what they're taught and what they're expected to do. Okay, so that's the problem. How do you start to fix it? Well, you can't just jump into training. First, you have to be crystal clear about what you're training for. You've got to define what a modern science teacher actually does. You need a framework for success. And the research gives this a name, STEM Teaching Competency. It's not just about knowing your physics or biology. Look at the language here. It's the integrated ability to design, organize, and evaluate activities that use all this interdisciplinary knowledge to solve practical problems. See, it's a whole skill set that's way bigger than just textbook knowledge. Now, to make sure this framework wasn't just pulled out of thin air, they used a really solid process called the Delphi method. Basically, you get a bunch of experts in STEM and tech together. You survey them, analyze what they say, and then you go back to them again with the results to refine everything. You do this over and over until everyone's basically on the same page. It's a way to make sure the final result is seriously credible and backed by people who know their stuff. And this is what that whole process produced: 5 core standards for what a modern STEM teacher needs to be. Yeah, of course you need deep subject knowledge. That's standard A. But look at the rest. It's all about how you teach, how you use tech, how you assess what students are learning, and even how you keep growing as a professional. It's the whole package. And it's important to know this framework isn't just built on nothing. It's grounded in really well-established ideas, like the TPACK model. That's a big one in education. And it's all about that sweet spot where your technology skills, your pedagogical skills, the art and science of how you teach, and your content knowledge all overlap. Okay, so we have the what a modern teacher needs to be. Now for the how. How do we actually get them there? And that brings us to the next piece of the puzzle. A new training blueprint that's all about integrating technology and real hands-on practice. And this is where it gets really cool. We're talking about throwing out the old lecture-style playbook. Instead, it's all about project-based, inquiry-based learning. Think digital simulations, using AI like ChatGPT to brainstorm lesson plans. The whole thing is built on a blended learning model. So you get the theory online, and then you come together for the fun stuff in person, the hands-on labs. And I just have to point this out because it's such a key idea from the research. The goal isn't just to, slap some technology onto an old lesson. It's a total mindset shift. It's about seeing something like AI not as a tool, but as a co-creative partner. Something that actually helps you come up with better, more creative ideas. All right, a fancy blueprint is great on paper, but the real question is, does it work in the real world? So next up, we're going to see them put this blueprint to the test. Let's look at a case study on a course called Energy and Transformation. Yeah, to prove this whole thing wasn't just a nice idea, the researcher actually went and applied these measures in a real university course for future science teachers. I mean, that's the ultimate test, right? Does it actually work when you've got real students and real deadlines? And just look at the kind of projects they were doing. We're not talking about filling out worksheets here. These student teachers were getting their hands dirty. They were designing and launching mini hot air balloons, creating self-heating bags, building working solar ovens, even programming a robot arm. This is the definition of learning by doing. And this really puts the change in stark contrast, doesn't it? The old way, lectures, maybe some limited practice. The new approach, blended learning. You get your theory online, on your own time, and then you come to class ready to do hands-on projects and get real feedback from your peers on your actual teaching. It's a total flip. So, the million-dollar question, did it work? You bet it did. The proof is right here. This chart shows the lesson planning scores from week 1 compared to week 5. That jump is huge. It's clear, measurable proof that this blueprint actually works to build a teacher's skills in a really short amount of time. Okay, so the results are pretty fantastic. For our last section, let's pull the camera back a bit. What does all of this mean for education as a whole? How do we take this from a single research study and make it a reality everywhere? So why should you care about all this? Because this isn't just another academic theory destined to collect dust on a shelf. It's a tested, practical blueprint. It's something universities and training programs can use right now to create the kinds of future-ready science teachers who are going to get kids excited and inspired, the kind that create the next generation of problem solvers. All right, let's recap the key takeaways here. Number 1, there's a huge, documented gap in how we're training STEM teachers. Number 2, the first step to fixing it is a clear, expert-backed framework. And 3, a training model that integrates tech and is based on projects is proven to be super effective. At the end of the day, this research gives universities and policymakers a real roadmap to follow. And to put it in the words of the researcher Dang Min Tuan, the whole point of this is to be a valuable reference for anyone designing teacher training programs. It's about finally meeting the real requirements of educational innovation today. So we're left with this final thought. The model works. We know that now. It's practical, it's inspiring, it's backed by data. The question is no longer if it works, but how. How do we take this amazing blueprint and scale it up to transform teacher education not just in one university, but everywhere?